Welcome to My Amazing Woman Behind the Amazing. I'm James C. Taylor. We're glad to have you. And what this is an opportunity for us to let you know how things work behind the scenes and get to know some of the cast and crew of the show. It's also a way for us to vamp to try and get some time to finish episode 2. When I started the podcast, I did not realize that you were supposed to have several episodes in the bank before you start. So we need a little time to get caught up. So we're going to give you a little peek at how My Amazing Woman came about. And before we do that, let me take care of this. I want to give a shout out to a friend of mine, Martin Gould, the author of The Customer Store, Find the Best Customers for Your Business. It's a book about niche marketing, which allows you to focus your ad dollars on the people who really are receptive to what you have to say. So that's at Amazon.com, and you can go and check that out. And the other thing that I have to tell you about is the Fiction Podcast Weekly newsletter from thepodcasthost.com. If you like audio drama and the fact that you're listening to this suggests that you might, then head on over to thepodcasthost.com/Fiction Podcast Weekly, all one word, to get weekly updates on what's going on in the entire world of audio drama delivered right to your inbox. That's thepodcasthost.com/Fiction Podcast Weekly. Tell them that My Amazing Woman sent you. Now, that won't actually get you anything, but do it anyway, and it'll freak them out. So, joining me now is Nicole B Harrell, one of our talented cast and crew, although she will point out that technically she isn't cast because I didn't cast her. You may recall her voice.
I haven't forgotten that, James.
Nor have I, unfortunately. You may recognize the voice from the commercials that we inserted for ourselves in the My Amazing Woman show. Thank you, Nicole, for doing this with me. Do you want to describe what your roles on the show are?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for having me. As James said, my name's Nicole, and I do basically the voice mixing. So once all of our lovely cast have done all of their recordings, they're all sent separately, and then I pick through them, get them into some kind of order, and then I send them over to James.
And she just doesn't send them so that I can enjoy them in the privacy of my home. I actually do stuff with them after that, like sound effects and things. But anyhow, her role is very crucial in this respect, that the placement of the voices next to the voices and making sure the voices sound at least close to like they're in the same room helps keep the illusion of the audio play. And in our case, our voices are not in the same room. They're not even in the same country, as in fact, you and I are not in the same country.
No,
that's a surprise to people.
Especially to have this conversation with you.
By the way, talking about conversations with you, I need to point out that I have a day job, by the way. As a matter of fact, pretty much everybody on this cast has a day job. But in my day job, they've listened to the show, and people asked me if your accent was really your accent. And I assured them that you really are from the UK, and you really do sound like that.
Truthfully, I really do sound like this. Sometimes I wish I didn't, but no, it is a real voice.
The other thing that I
can do.
The other thing that I had to assure them is that you're not quite over the bend the way that you are in the commercials. That's
that's
acting.
Very kind of you, because we all know that I really am. But no, going back to what you were saying, yes. There's certainly all these different voices, and some of our cast do several takes as well. So it's kind of picking out take that goes well with the other actor that they're talking to in that scene. And of course, we have things like where an actor might be on TV. In the case of our reporter reporting from the volcano, so they had to sound like they was on a television. So I kind of adjusted. Our friend, the actor of Dr. Calculus, Ken, we did quite a lot of work on his together, really, didn't we, to try and make it sound like he was in some kind of suit.
Right.
So there's sort of all sorts of faffing around that we do with the voices as well.
Right.
That's what I like to call it. That's the technical term.
That's the technical term. All right. Yeah, they didn't tell me that one in broadcast school, but I was sleeping half the time anyway. So okay, you've been doing some form of audio for a long time, because I've met you. What was it, about 10 years ago?
Oh, it must be more than that, actually. Thinking about it, it's a bit scary to think of, but we first came to know each other through twerps, didn't we?
Right, right.
Now I think that must be more than 10, 15, maybe.
Okay.
It's a bit kind
Um,
of scary to think about, isn't it? But yeah, it's, I mean, it's certainly been a long time. It has been a
right.
long time that I've had the pleasure of your friendship.
And the
But
thing
yeah,
is we worked on one of their series there. They did a fan series of the Green Hornet, and we worked
yes,
on that pretty much in the exact same manner that we're working now. In that they
yes,
had you
yeah,
cut together all the dialogue, and then had me put the sound effects behind it and master it. So
yes, yeah. And I think I actually had a part in that one, James. But we
yes,
won't
you
go
did.
into
Yes,
that.
you did it. You did have a part. Oh man. Yeah,
But
we,
yeah,
we,
no,
we, we got to
it's
get you. We got to get you in soon. Here. I have sort of made a deal with our voice director, uh, Mark Bauer, and that's a little different role than voice editor, because he tries to get them to say the words at least approximately the way that they're supposed to be said in the first place, even if
mm,
they do give you multiple takes, so that the multiple takes are at least somewhere in the vicinity of what they're supposed to sound like.
yeah.
So I have a deal, I believe, in place with him that between episode 2 and episode 3, you'll get to do something. And
A
I don't just mean
suitcase.
the commercials. No,
Oh,
not
I
a
think.
suitcase.
But I was practicing that one.
Open, close,
Close.
open.
Open.
Oh, all
No,
right. And
yeah, it's been
so
a
so
long
that's how far
time.
back you and I go. But how far
Mm.
back do you go in audio production?
Probably just not much further back than that. I first got into voice acting. Um, Basically, I wanted to do computer games. I wanted to be a voice actor on a computer game. That's how it very, very, very first started. And
Hmm.
it was sort of uh, looking into that. I discovered the world of online, basically kind of amateur productions, and
Hmm.
that's how I found Twerps. And I kind of got in contact with Doug through there. Sorry, not Doug, Jim.
Jim. Yeah.
Poor Jim. Sorry,
That
Jim.
Jim and Doug are both part of Twerp, and I'm sure they'll forgive you for confusing one for the other.
Oh, I hope so. Poor guys. But anyway, so I got in contact with Jim and I sort of started working with Twerps, and I was really lucky that I got all sorts of other roles as well.
Hmm.
And I did reach a point where I kind of called myself a very lucky amateur because I started getting paid work. And I did some computer games. I've done some animations, and I'm trying to think back because I did stop for a short time because I became unwell.
Hmm.
Um, but I did do audiobooks, and I
Hmm.
actually hired you, didn't I, to be my Santa Claus on one of the audiobooks that I
Right,
did.
right. It was post Green Hornet,
Yeah,
and you
yeah.
needed someone to do Santa Claus. And was it Ken who told you that I did a decent Santa Claus, or did I did just
No, no,
volunteer
I
myself?
literally, yeah, I literally just put on Facebook, do any of my voice actor friends want to be Santa Claus? And you responded, so
Well,
there we went.
b-
But that was my biggest, it's the audiobooks that got me into doing editing because I did all of I voiced the whole thing. It was a single
mhm,
voice apart from where I needed a deep male Santa Claus that I couldn't do. Um, but it was just my voice. I did all of the sound effects, all of the mixing, literally everything on those. I think I did about 5 of the books in the end, but then I kind of reached a point where I just had to stop, and I
mhm.
stopped for a few years, and then um, you invited me to a new group called Hey Daddy O and said, "Look, I've got an idea," and I thought, well, why not? Let's let's give you a hand, and
Roll the
here we are
dice and see
now.
what happens. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a funny thing because I honestly believe that if things had not fallen the way that they did with your health at the time of your audition, that you would have
Mm.
actually had a part. But when you auditioned for the show, and I don't know if people can tell this in the commercials, you had like some sort of congestion.
Yes, I was really unwell actually. I had like really, really bad sinusitis for I think 6 weeks all in all. Actually, Ken did message me and I said, he said, I really liked your the adverts you were doing, but did you have a cold? And I thought, oh my God, is it that obvious that I was bunged up? But yeah, I wasn't in top form, shall we say.
Well, but the thing is that you were, because you auditioned for us, and Mark and I listened to your audition, And yes, me knowing what you sound like, it was definitely clear to me that you had a cold, and for whatever reason, you were like having some trouble with what I had written or something. But
Mm.
basically, you gave this incredible audition where you simultaneously audition and put down everything that you did, and it just cracked me up, and I
Yes,
just
I just
fell
chatted throughout
over.
my audition tape, didn't I? I was like, "Oh, hi, how you doing? This is what I'm doing. I'm not feeling very well, so this is what I'm going to do."
Yes, and then you
I
said, "All
do
right,"
like to
and now
chat.
I'm going to do an American voice, and then wait, my American voice is rubbish, so you're not going to get to hear it.
Yeah,
And it's like, okay, I loved that energy. And it's like I have to get this in the show, and it's like I had always planned to do some sort of commercials, fake commercials for the pilot,
yeah,
because the pilot really was a pilot. The pilot really was for the purpose of trying to get some funding so that we could do it right. And then all kinds of things happened, and we ended up getting to be able to put it on without trying to fish for some funding first.
mm,
But it had always been my point rather to have some sort of commercials in there just to break it up so that when we were showing this to prospective investors, they could hear what it would sound like with paid
yeah,
commercials in there.
yeah,
And so I don't intended to do something that's like, well, I know that me as a performer is only so funny, and that when I did commercials on the radio, I almost always got the best response when I was the straight man to the various female announcers that I worked with back in that day. And it's like, okay, I have someone who is wonderfully, marvelously genuine and funny as all get out. Um, this would be the perfect opportunity to use her, and people maybe in short doses won't notice that she could use a decongestant. So I wrote a few things up and I showed them to you, and you thought they were at least halfway decent, and you
They're
got
all right
inspired and
for
you wrote
us.
some things up yourself, and ta-da, there were the commercials that went inside the show.
Yeah,
So and I
they were really good fun as well because they're actually the whole show is just individual lines sent in and put together, but our adverts are recorded kind of live, if that makes sense. It is literally the recording of us two speaking together, which I think is really nice. You can really get the bounce back from each other, which yeah, I really like our little
it,
adverts.
and the thing is that we didn't really intend it that way, but it kind of came out, at least from me, like trying to be lazy, because I had so many hats to wear on this. That's like, I'm going to hold my professional recording microphone right here, and while we run through, because it was the commercials as they came out were actually supposed to be run throughs. We were just supposed to
Yes,
run through it,
yeah, they
try and see
were.
how we were going to read it.
Mm,
But I set my mic and said, and I told you, this is what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and read it through, but I'm going to record us reading it through in the
yeah.
off chance that the audio was good, and I wouldn't have to go back, sit down, and do it again. And when
Mm.
I told you that, you said, "That's a capital idea." Of course, you didn't say it like that, but you said some sort of thing, Britishy thing like that, that you agreed that it was a good idea, and you went and got your regular mic, and we recorded us doing a run through, and I think it came out actually
Yeah, it
quite
kind of
well.
worked. Yeah, it was really good. It was really funny. I know the one thing though was you was so quick at sort of chopping through each one, and I had to keep going. Stop! Let me just get the next script before we start recording the next. You were going 3, 2, no!
Well,
I don't know
that
what I'm saying.
that comes from my background, and we'll get into my background in another episode of Behind the Scenes, or Behind
Yes.
the Amazing, or whatever I said the name of this was at the beginning. I think I said it was Behind the Amazing.
Yes.
We'll get into my background at some point, because it's really easy to interview myself. I know where I'm at all the time, but really, well, I usually know where I'm at all the time. But at any rate, now I've completely lost my train of thought. Right off the side
You
of the track
can't
there.
interview yourself.
No, before that.
Oh, I can't remember what we was talking about before that.
Yeah. See, there you go.
I don't keep track of things.
Well, yeah, that's one of the many reasons why it's not only My Amazing Woman, but it's amazing that it made it all the way to Podbean, because I am really distracted right now. But at any rate, it was good fun doing that, and we managed to get it all together to work.
Mm.
And read throughs are important, although you didn't take part of the read.
I didn't, and I was so
No.
gutted not to be there. Gutted, should I have said that? Does
Well,
anybody know what that
but
means?
well,
Apart
yes,
from Sophie, I think she's.
enough Americans watch like Doctor Who and stuff. They know when you
Oh,
say
that's
something that's
okay
kind of
then.
British and still what it means. Uh, but um, but
I
gutted
was
is actually just kind of,
disappointed.
yeah. You were
I
disappointed, yeah.
was rather disappointed that I wasn't there. But
Well,
unfortunately, having a 3-year-old and being up recording at midnight is not something I'm quite keen on.
and
But I
that
certainly,
was kind of the weirdness of the cast. We have cast members in Australia, we have cast members in the UK, and we have cast members actually to the north, south, east, west of me in the Central Time Zone, including Ken and Lena Garcia, who plays Anna Cat. That there was only like one time on the calendar where everybody might possibly be awake at the same time.
I
So
mean, I have to admit, I'm actually in my pajamas right now. I
oh,
mean, just
that's
be
funny because I'm
thankful
in
that
your
we.
pajamas too.
I thought it was a bit tight in here.
Oh, y- you know what? I think maybe we'll take a break and regroup and maybe approach something approaching sense. We'll do that right after this.
Okay.
And we're back with My Amazing Woman Behind the Amazing. This is James C. Taylor. And with me again is Nicole Beharrell. And
Hello.
we are talking with her about the show and about her experiences and about pretty much anything else she wants to talk about. And I do want to ask you what you thought about the show, both from the finished product once we actually put it all together and as you were working on it and getting to hear the takes that the cast members did and so forth.
It was all right.
Well, that's good to know. Good to know. I
It
was
was all right.
aiming for mediocre. Yeah.
It was really exciting, actually, and it was really nice. Obviously, coming from the beginning, seeing the script. It was such a shame I wasn't there for the read through. I can imagine that was really exciting, hearing your lines kind of come into life. But yeah,
Funny thing
certainly
about
getting.
that, but we'll circle back. Come on.
Okay. And yeah, they're getting the lines coming through, and certainly, I think what really hit me when putting the lines together was the humour came out a lot more. You could really hear those jokes and the humour coming out, and then once then I heard the
Hmm.
um, final. I can't even think of my words. The final
Well,
thing.
yes, the final thing. Yes,
The
technical
final
term.
thing. Yeah, it was just so lovely. It really was, and it was also lovely just how excited everyone, particularly you, was about it. And yeah, I don't know, it just feels like kind of starting this huge thing that's going to be, I don't know, just this journey that's going to be so much fun to be on. Definitely.
I have no idea where we'll be a year from now,
Mm.
2, 3 years from now, but just that episode and it being up and it being available on podbean.com and iTunes and Google and
Yeah,
I'll stop
everywhere.
shilling it for a moment, but you can pretty much find it anywhere there is a podcast. And if you can't find it where you go for a podcast, send me an email. You can send it to heydaddyoaudio at lightning-man.com and I'll get it there because a couple cast members said, hey, I actually listened to pods on this. Can you get us there? And it's like, I guess I can. And I went in and I have accounts at like every podcast place in the universe except Pandora. So I guess I need to add that to my arsenal. But at any rate, well, I was saying something about something. I was talking about uh let's see. I said, put, ladies and gentlemen, this is why I need other people because things just fall out of the head here. We were talking about you. Oh,
how
the
excited it was coming
a big
together.
thing, and it's exciting to come together. And um, when I heard the final mix, not as the pieces parts, because when I'm putting in the effects, I'm just kind of listening to where this sound needs to go and what sounds are missing. And
Mm.
by the way, even though Nicole did the dialogue part, she also was my kind of tester on the sound part, and if you think that there's any fullness or sweetness to the audio, it's because she would suggest, well, why don't you add this here, and why don't you put that there? Except she didn't sound like the Wicked Witch of the West like I just did for some reason.
Which is where the little in-joke we have about doors not sounding like a door comes from, because your doors, I was like, James, all your
Right.
doors sound like they're closing.
Yeah,
Every single door.
this is a special just for the cast, because there were a couple posts that I did in our super secret private group where we try and work everything out and get everybody together. I posted several different things about Nicole and Doors, and either they thought I was saying that she liked Jim Morrison and the Doors, or they couldn't figure out what it was. And what it was that I got myself in a hurry and just grabbed the first sound effect that I could find that said door open. But for whatever reason, this sound that said it was a door open sounded for all the world like a door slamming shut.
Yes,
so people were opening doors by closing doors, and it was very confusing. And she pointed this out to me, and so I had to go. And in the first episode, there are a lot of doors.
Yes.
So it's because everybody keeps coming in and out of the hotel room.
In and out, and then I'm like, I'm sure this person's meant to be leaving now. Why is the door closing?
So I combed through the library that we have access to, all Creative Commons 0 for those people who are worried about me pilfering other people's work. And I'll put this out here on the record so you have it. All of the sound effects in the show are either recorded by me personally or Creative Commons 0. So they don't even need to be attributed. I will give a shout out, I believe, in episode 2, and I know I will in episode 3, to where I get them from, which is freesounds.org. But they're all Creative Commons 0, so I'm not stealing anybody's work. They were put out there so that amateur and fledgling productions such as ours can actually sound halfway decent. So anyhow,
I went through. Used to use for the audiobooks, Creative Commons Zeros.
Yeah, and so I found a door that actually sounded like a door, and the door opening on the show improved 1,000%. You could actually tell when people were coming in and leaving.
The show. I don't think it would be anywhere near as successful as it is now without decent doors.
Yes,
it's the key to everything.
Yes. Well, wouldn't the key be the key to the doors, and then the door would be the door to everything?
There you go. We can't open the doors without the keys. And so it goes on.
And so it goes. So that's where the door joke came from. Cast members who actually are listening to this thing, and we hope that they're listening. We also hope that they're recording so that we can get the next episode done.
I just say,
yes.
If any of your cast members want to add any little chatty bits to your recordings that you're sending to me, please feel free, because I love it. Say hello.
Yeah, if they just want to talk to you, they can. And some of the folks like to do ad libs, and some of the ad libs, and I'm not going to tell you which, because I want everybody to think that every word was my brilliance. Some of the ad libs actually made it into the show. So
yes, there were some that were really good.
Yeah. I'm not one of those dictatorial Alfred Hitchcock, the actors are cattle kind of guy. I will let you play around with it a lot, as long as you don't ruin my plot point by your improvisation. So, but at any rate, this is shop talk, so I guess we can do some shop talk, but this kind of seemed a little extra shop talky.
Shop talk on top of shop talk.
Yes. You like the show, and
I did very much, very, very much, and I was privy to read not only the next episode script, but episode number 3, and I'm so excited about where it's going. I really am. It's just, it's funny, but it's also tense as well. I was quite surprised by the tension that's going to be coming. Am I allowed to say that, or should I?
You can, because this is kind of a teaser and hint, and it'll keep people interested in coming back to actually listen to the show. We have 2 shows written. The second show is in production, and we have 3 shows written because one is already done. But we've finished the 3rd script as of this recording the night before. Or at least we got the first draft of the first script the night before, and so we know what the next 2 shows at least are going to be about.
Yes.
And this 3rd show is a little different than the first 2, in that this is probably the first show that has some of a superhero plot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's one of the things about this mixed genre of the
Mm.
show is that you can do a little bit of pretty much every kind of plot that all of the different drama slices are in. You can do a plot that focuses entirely on the romance. You can do a plot
Mm.
that entirely focuses on the comedy. You can do a plot that entirely focuses on the superheroics, and you can put pieces of all of it together. That's one of the things that made doing this show attractive to me. But I'm going to stop there because
Yeah. I'm going to
on the
discuss
next
that
one
with
of
you later.
these, the interview subject is going to be me, and Nicole's actually going to be asking me things like that, and I might as well not do that now when I can do that then. So,
Yeah. I tell you what it reminded me of.
yes,
If you take all three scripts into consideration, it reminds me a bit of Doctor Who. That kind of humor, but also tension and very strange things happening and very day-to-day things happening. Does that make sense?
yes, yeah, it does, and I appreciate that it even remotely reminds you of it. I am a very big fan of Doctor Who. My first Doctor was Tom Baker, but I even watched several of the Pertwee years. I have seen uh, Hartnell and Troughton, but
Mm.
the shows that I saw with any sort of continuity and actually knew what was going on and saw the entire serials. I started with Baker, but then the local PBS station went back to Pertwee, and I've come all the way forward to now. And
Mm.
since you brought it up, and since you actually live over there in the land of Doctor Who, which one is your favorite Doctor?
Tom Baker, and I actually have um, I knitted a replica of Tom Baker's scarf following the same colour scheme as well, and it was 12 foot long. And I did that for my friend's birthday. I'll have to try and find a photo and send it to you. But yeah, I might have to do that again. Maybe that can be your present for finishing series 1 of Amazing Woman, as I make you a Tom Baker scarf. But no, definitely he's my favourite.
Would you like a jelly baby? He has a tremendous voice too. Baker
He's
does.
wonderful.
I love his
Yeah.
voice. Um, and Baker, Tom Baker, because there were two of them. Baker is mine, my favorite as well. Since they brought it back, of the guys and gals, since they brought it back, do you have any that you particularly enjoyed?
It is nice to. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I don't really watch Doctor Who.
You don't watch
I'm
the new
not a
one,
massive Doctor Who fan. I'm British, so I know a lot about it
right?
because I'm pretty sure it's genetic. But
It's the law. You must
it is the
know
law.
something about Doctor Who.
People, the police, they knock on the door and they say, "Have you been watching it?" Um, you get your passport taken away if you haven't been watching Doctor Who. They take away your anyway. It was nice to see a female Doctor Who.
Mhm.
My friend who I actually knitted the scarf for, he is a massive fan, massive fan. He knows
Mhm.
everything. He knows the name of all the extras. He's that deep into it. And I remember saying to him once, "Is there a reason why there's never been a female Doctor?" And he said, "Well, technically, no, there isn't a reason." So, to see a female Doctor was actually quite nice. Yeah, I liked
Awesome,
that.
awesome. Um, Now, one thing that I've discovered in talking with you about various things in the script and so forth, and working on the show, is that you also know a lot of American television. And are
Yes.
there any particular American shows that you're fond of?
Oh, probably loads, but trying to think off the top of my head. Uh, I am a big Star Trek fan.
Okay.
I am a bigger Trekkie than I am any. I am a sci-fi lover, but I
Hmm.
am probably a Trekkie above all
You're
others.
more of a Trekker than a
I'm
Whovian?
more of a Trekker than a Who. Yeah, definitely. But
Okay.
don't tell. You've got to keep quiet, or they're going to kick me out of the
We'll
country.
keep it a secret.
Just don't tell anyone. The Queen personally comes over with a sword and stabs you.
She keeps it in her purse.
She does. She She likes to stab people with it. Anyway, what do you think? Why do you think Prince Philip finally went?
Are you going to get in trouble for this?
Probably, yeah. I'm trying to think. I'll tell you what's interesting is I prefer the American version of The Office than the British version. The British version I hate. I hate it with
Really?
a passion. It's awful. But I love the American version. I just love it. And Parks and Recreation I really love. Big fan of that. So definitely American comedies. Yeah.
Well, if I can just pry into that a little bit, it has
Mm,
absolutely nothing to do with the show whatsoever, but I find that fascinating. Um, is it the difference between Ricky Gervais, excuse
definitely.
me, and oh goodness gracious,
What's his
now is
face?
excuse
The
me,
guy, whatever his name
played
is.
played Maxwell Smart. Know his name. Why is it escaping me?
Steve
Steve
Carell.
Carell. Steve
Yes,
Carell. Yes, yeah.
Steve Carell. I think the Ricky Gervais version is done. You don't like him. There's nothing about him that is likable. He is a dislikable character.
Right.
Whereas the Steve Carell version, you warm to him. You do, everything's done in quite a warm way, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Also, the Ricky Gervais version actually reminds me very much of a manager I used to have, who was just like him. And so when I watch him, I just think, oh my god, he's just like that man I used to work for, and I just can't bear it. I really cannot bear it. I can't watch
I'm
it.
doing this again. Yeah.
Yeah, he was the kind of person who would like tell a joke and then laugh, and the rest of you would just be kind of standing there like, I don't even know what the joke was. What are you even talking about? Yeah, it was just cringy. It makes me cringe
Okay.
just thinking about it.
It doesn't happen as much as it used to because now we can just take BBC shows and just put. Well, I mean, we could even back in the '70s because Masterpiece Theater used to go over and get BBC shows and then put them on American public television. But there was a tradition in Hollywood of taking UK shows and
Mm.
retooling them for US actors and so forth. Well,
I don't like it when that's done. Apart from The Office,
really,
I'm. Have you ever heard of Red Dwarf?
I've not heard of Red Wolf.
You'd really love it. You really would. It's a science fiction show. It's so funny. It is
Hmm.
so funny, and it started in 1986, and I love it. That is the thing that I'm a huge fan of. And they did
Hmm.
try to take that over to America, and it didn't work. It really didn't. And they did the same. What's the other program? The IT Crowd. That was another one they tried to Americanize. They took Chris O'Dowd over to America with them, who was in the British version, but again, it just didn't. It just didn't work. To be honest, I don't know if you think the same, but I think American and British humor can be quite different,
Yes,
and I
yes, it
don't think
can.
they translate well when you try to turn one into the other. And I think the same the other way around. If British people try to do American shows, I don't think it works. I can't think of an example, but
But
they
there
need to be
were
standalone.
several that I don't know how big they were when they were in Britain, but they did come over here and were great hits. A lot of people don't realize that the American show All in the Family goes back to Great Britain. I'm trying to remember now what was the name of the British show from which the situation was basically pulled. But
Oh, is that Oh, that's the one with Alf Garnett in it. What? Hold
yeah,
on. No, I can't.
I think
What
that's
was
it.
that program with Alf Garnett
I
in it?
I I I don't know. I just remember that it was, and then there are several. But actually, I said that that doesn't happen that much anymore. But I'm presently watching what where it happened right now. You had a sitcom over there that I absolutely adored.
Till Death Do Us Part. Sorry, I
Yes,
just
Till
googled
Death
it.
Do Us Part. That was the show. Yes, that was it. You're right. And you'll see that in teeny weeny print in the
Mm,
credits of All in the Family,
yeah.
that it was based on that. But there's a show right now in American TV that was based on a show over there called Miranda, which starred Miranda Hart.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah. I
yeah,
didn't know they did an
yeah,
American
yeah. They
version of that.
that's been adapted for Mian Bialik as
Yeah.
Call Me Cat, I think, or I
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Oh,
and
I'll have to look at that. I'll be
yeah.
interested to see how it
The thing is
translates.
though, how much did you like Miranda?
I did quite like it. Yeah, it's
then
very
you
funny.
might
But
not
I
want
am
to
one.
you might not want to watch it then. Not that it's bad, because it's not bad, but
Yeah. But I'm just wondering because I think the thing is I think they translate well if they make it their own, like with The Office.
well, okay, there
The
you
Ricky
go.
Gervais character is horrible. There is nothing likable about him. But they didn't do that with Michael Scott. He is a warm, likable person. He's annoying and he's cringy and he's an idiot, but there's something lovely about him and he cares for people.
Right.
And I
Then
think
you
it's
may
just
like it, because
changes.
there are differences, and more than superficial differences, because you know how many women in the world could play Miranda, like Miranda. I mean, Miranda Hart's something like 8 feet tall or something, right?
Yeah, very, very posh, very Johnny Hawkins as well.
Yeah, and Mian Bialik is a very talented lady, but
Mm,
she's not that. So
no,
like some of the jokes that Miranda would do at her own expense don't really make sense for someone who's like half as tall. So,
yeah, yeah.
um, but at any rate, looks like I've actually overstayed our time, so I'm going to go ahead and finish up this now. Thank you, Nicole, for doing this,
Thank you very
and thank
much
you
for having
also in
me.
advance for turning around and turning the tables on me. And the next time that you hear something, if we don't actually have the show ready by then, you'll probably hear her interviewing me. But again, thank you. This is My Amazing Woman Behind the Amazing, and I'm James C. Taylor. And yes, we're working on it. We'll get you a show as soon as we can. Thank you, everybody.